Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on our Wednesday weekly Zoom. It is such a pleasure to see all of you online tonight, and I can see people are still streaming through, so it's quite a large audience we have here, as well as welcoming our guests who are watching us tonight on the Facebook Live and those listening in tomorrow on J-Air. I'd like to remind everybody, if you have any questions, please use the raise hand button, and we'll get to you in the Q&A that will come after the presentation. Now I'd like to introduce our CEO, Robert Gregory, to introduce our guest tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanil. It's my pleasure to introduce Ohad Tal, Knesset member for the Religious Zionism Party. Ohad's an active member of the Security and Foreign Affairs Committee. Since the war, he's led several very important initiatives. He's also chairman of the Knesset Committee for Public Projects, member of the Absorption Committee, and active in promoting Israel-diaspora relations. Before politics, Ohad served as director of World Bnei Akiva, which is the largest Zionist youth movement in the world. He was also Deputy Director General of World Mizrachi. One of his roles is co-chair of the Australia-Israel Parliamentary Friendship Group, along with a member of the Knesset from the opposition, Sharon Haskell, who's also been a guest on it with AJA. I met Ohad when I was in Israel last year, and I was very impressed by how he's able to take a keen interest in what happens in Australia, despite being on the other side of the world and having a lot of other commitments in Israel. So I'm going to hand over to Ohad, who will say some words, and yeah, pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be with you, and I'm sorry I came a little bit late because I was in other discussion, but my apologies anyway. Friends, I mean, we are in a very, very sensitive, complicated time. I think in Jewish history, we didn't had I mean, for many years we didn't had such an unbelievable challenge. I mean, I know most people who comes to Israel now and they see what is happening. I mean, they're walking the streets, they see the restaurants are full, and they see people go to work and send their kids to camps and to school and to whatever. And it looks as if everything is more or less normal. But the reality, the truth is that all this normality can actually change in a second, because this war is a war for our survival. We are actually fighting for our survival. And this war is it's not just with Hamas. We're not just fighting Hamas. And we are not just fighting Hezbollah. We are actually fighting with Iran. That's the war. The war is with Iran. Everything that you've seen happening here in the last 10 months, everything is part of Iran's plan. I don't know if you're aware to the fact that Israel has found the detailed plan of Iran of exactly how to destroy the state of Israel. That's their ultimate goal. They want to destroy the state of Israel, and we know it's not just an idea. We actually found the document with the plan, detailed plan. They're working on it for 20 years of how to destroy the one and only Jewish state in the world. And everything we've seen, again, as I said, in the past 10 years is part of it. Hamas is, of course, is one of the arms of this octopus, and Hezbollah is another arm, and the Houthis in Yemen. We have, as we speak, we have about between 30 and 40,000 Shiite soldiers in Syria waiting for command. We have similar number of Shiite soldiers in Iraq waiting to invade through Jordan. By the way, the Jordanians are extremely, extremely concerned because they know that the goal of Iran is to take them down as well. So Iran is basically surrounding Israel as we speak, surrounding Israel with many forces, waiting and arming them, sponsoring them, heavily arming them, and they are waiting for the command, for the right moment to attack, and they have only one goal in their mind, and that is to destroy Israel. So this is what we are fighting. And on these challenging and difficult times, we are definitely need our friends in the world to stand with us. Because yes, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for the entire free world, for the Western civilization. Iran, they don't want just to destroy Israel. You know, couple of weeks ago, I saw a video of the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood in Israel. His name is Sheikh Raed Salah, and he's working for the Iranians completely. And he was asked by his people in this video. I mean, you can just Google it. By the way, you would see it. It's on YouTube. You would just see it. Everybody can watch it. He was asked what's going to happen in Gaza in the day after, right? Everybody's talking about and asking the question, what's going to happen on the next day after the war? What's going to happen in Gaza? And he told them that that is the wrong question. The real question should be, what's going to happen in America on the next day? And he said, we want to take down America. And of course, America represents to him and to all of them the entire free world. Okay, this is what they're aiming. This is what they want to do. You know, in Tehran, they're chanting every day, death to Israel, death to America. They're burning American flags each and every day. They call us the little Satan. They call America and they call Europe the big Satan. So if there's one thing we have to learn from October 7th, that is to listen to what our enemies are saying, to believe what they are saying. You know, people keep asking me, how did October 7th even happen? How could it be? How you were so surprised? Israel, with all its, it has the best army in the world and the best intelligence capabilities. How you were so surprised that October 7th happened? And of course, I don't have the full answer, and this is something we'll have to investigate. But at least part of the answer is that, you know, at the end of the day, Israel is part of Western civilization. We are part of the free world, and we are thinking and we are operating on with the same program. So, you know, also before October 7th, we had the plans of Hamas of how to commit the massacre of October 7th. We had a plan exactly of how they're gonna break the walls and how they're gonna penetrate the kibbutzim, the villages, and how they're gonna kill and murder and everything. We had everything. And yet we were so surprised. Why? Because we didn't want to listen. We didn't want to believe it. We told ourselves, no, they're just saying that. They're just saying that. They're bragging. They're not going to really do that. And if we will give them pieces of our land, if we will improve their economy, if we will improve their health system, maybe, they would not really want to kill us. It doesn't work. We've learned in the hard way, it doesn't work, and we cannot fool ourselves anymore. We have to listen to what our enemies are saying. We have to wake up and to realize the threat and fight back. Not because we like war, not because we want to kill anybody. We don't. We hate war. We've done everything we can. Israel is the country who wants peace more than anything. We for 30 years, since the Oslo Accords, we've done everything we can. Actually, it's even more before that, because since the partition plan in 1947, we were willing to do everything to achieve peace. Even though Israel is such a tiny little country, we were willing to give parts of our lands to the Arabs, hoping that will achieve peace. But we've learned in the hardest way that it doesn't work. Our enemies want to destroy us. They don't care about the land. They don't care about the finances. They don't care about anything. They just want to kill us. They are saying it, and we better start believing it and act upon it. And I'm saying it's not just Israel's problem. Look at what is happening in Europe. Look at what is happening. Look at what is happening in the UK in the recent weeks and months. Look at what is happening. Look at what is happening in Belgium, in Germany, in France, in so many countries in Europe. When all these Muslim fundamentalist Islamists coming to these immigrants, coming to these countries, beating them, burning their towns, telling them to their faces, we want to apply Sharia rules in your countries. We want to make the UK to a Muslim country. This is what they're saying. So we can keep, being Western people, thinking it's all a lie, close our eyes, thinking that maybe if you will pay the bully, we will be able to buy peace and quiet. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And if Western civilization would not wake up and realize and fight back they will take us down. They'll take all of us down. We have to wake up. And again, I didn't plan it, but I'm holding here in my hand a book of Josephus Flavius, and he's telling the story. I read this book a couple of years ago, even though it's a heavy book. It's a very heavy book, but I really recommend everybody should read it. It tells the story of how we lost this country 2,000 years ago to the Romans when they came here. And we were so busy, you know that the great revolt against the Romans, it took 4 years. It took 4 years to the Romans to take down Judea. But unfortunately, 3.5 years out of these 4, we were busy fighting with each other. We were not focused on our enemies. We were focused about fighting amongst each other. And I think we have to learn from history. Every chapter I read in this book, I felt that I'm changing my affiliation with a different part of the people of Israel back then, because changed my affiliation to identify with a different group among the people of Israel back then, because every group back then had a very serious truth to his claims, and every group seriously thought that the other group is causing the most horrible damage and bringing destruction for the nation. And this is why they were so busy fighting with each other. So I think what we have to learn is that we have to have our discussions, we have to manage our disagreements in a constructive way. We have to change our focus, not to fight with each other. We have to really, as I said before, we have to wake up, realize the threat, see the Romans standing on the wall of Jerusalem, and instead of fighting with each other, be united against our enemies. So I'm saying it to ourselves. This is our responsibility to change what is happening in Israel in that regard, but also I think for the Jewish people and for the Western civilization, to wake up, to join forces, to realize the threat, and to fight together against those who want to take all of us down, they want to wipe our everything. I mean, they're fighting against everything we represent, everything that the free world represent, our values, our freedom, our democracy, and our actual existence. This is what they want to destroy, and we have to fight back. So that will be only like my presentation, and I will open it for your questions, and we can have an open dialogue.
Hey, thank you for that. That was very, very informative. Sets the scene for us. Might ask you a specific question, because obviously what's on everyone's mind at the moment are these threats coming from these countries you speak about. So what's the feeling in Israel? What's expected regarding Iran, Hezbollah? Why doesn't Israel do a preemptive strike? Will they? Is there anything you can share on those ideas?
I think that there's a lot of tension in Israel right now. I mean, we've seen what happened in the last couple of days and weeks. We've seen Israel attacking for the first time over 2,000 kilometers from our borders in Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen, which is something incredible that happened. We've seen what happened that Israel took down Muhammad Def, one of the greatest leaders of Hamas, responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. We've seen Israel taking down the chief of staff of Hezbollah in Lebanon, who was also in charge of the death of just the 12 Druze kids in northern Israel just a couple of days ago, and also for thousands of killings throughout the last couple of years, including American Marines and French soldiers and so many other people. We've seen what happened to Hania in Tehran, and I think everybody understands that. And that even besides the fact that, as I said at the beginning, we are in a war with Iran, and Iran has one goal, and that is to destroy Israel. And everything is now moving fast forward. I mean, everything is going to that direction. So everybody, I think many people in Israel are very concerned. There's a lot of tension. People are waiting to see what's going to happen next. I mean, again, everything is so sensitive right now, and everything is very delicate. The situation is very delicate, and people understand it can easily. I mean, all this normality can, as I said at the beginning, can change in a second to something we haven't seen in many years, I think, in the world. I think people also understand that we cannot avoid that. We cannot really avoid it. I mean, because if Israel has the right to defend itself, so we have to fight back. We cannot just allow them to keep with their plans to destroy us. And again, escalation can definitely happen. It can definitely happen very, very fast. And who knows to what level that will come. And but I think people in Israel are also ready. They understand that this is maybe also the opportunity, the chance to change the reality for many years, to change the course of history. I'm sure you're all aware that the Iranian regime is not just a threat for Israel, not just a threat to the Middle East and to the entire Western civilization, but also it's a threat to the Persian people themselves. I mean, 80% of the people in Iran, they hate the regime. They hate it. So I think if at the end of the day we will be able to take down this evil regime, that will be good news for everybody, for Israel, for the Middle East, for the entire free world, and of course for the Persians themselves, which I think will be very happy. And just one last point to answer that, I think that if you'll see what happened in the last in April, in the middle of April, when Iran decided to directly attack Israel with over 300 ballistic missiles, is that so many other countries in the region here, including the Emiratis and the Saudis and the Jordanians and other countries, which I've not specified, when they had to choose in the moment of truth, on which team are you? Are you with Team Israel or are you with Team Iran? They all chose to be with Team Israel. And they helped us take down this assault from Iran. So everybody understand here. Everybody understand that it should happen. It should happen.
All right. So turning to, I mean, on that point, obviously, everyone's very amazed by what Israel's achieved, especially in the last few weeks. So hopefully it continues. You know, Yahya Sinwar, Nasrallah, there's other people to get. But in the outside of the current,
I didn't confirm. Just to be clear, I didn't confirm that Israel has done what happened in Iran to Hania. I didn't confirm it. Just saying that I don't know who did it, but he did an incredible job. But again, just to be clear.
So turning away from the current tensions, we saw the judicial reform was a really big project of the government, which it didn't end up going anywhere. A lot of people supported it, obviously, and in the diaspora as well. So what are the other big, has the war disrupted the government's plans? What other big projects does the government have, maybe especially in regards to Judea, Samaria, dealing with illegal Arab construction? That anything can come up, or is the war sort of taking over everything?
First of all, I think the vast majority of the people in Israel here understand that if you ask about Judea and Samaria and the two-state solution, that there can be no a Palestinian state. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Nobody here wants it. And again, all the polls are showing it. The vast majority of the people in Israel are strongly against. And I think every person with a little bit brain in his head can understand very easily, especially after October 7th, why it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't know if you're aware to the fact that according to the recent polls made by the Palestinians themselves, by the way, Dr. Khalil Shkaki had 3 polls in the last couple of months, all showing that over 84% of the Palestinians today in Judea and Samaria supports Hamas. They're justifying the massacre of October 7th, saying that if they would have the chance, they would repeat it time and time again. So how can anybody think that to allow them to have their own independent state will bring more peace and stability and prosperity to the region? Of course not. I mean, effectively, just to remind everybody, in 2005, Israel has withdrawn from the Gaza Strip and gave it all to the Palestinians. And billions of dollars were invested in Gaza. They could have made Gaza to the Singapore of the Middle East. But instead, they chose to invest every penny in terror infrastructure, in missiles, in underground tunnels, making Gaza to the biggest terror nest of the world. So if that was a success, I can understand why people say, it was such a great success giving them a country, because effectively, they already had a country since 2005, independent country. So if that was a success, I can understand why people say, no, let's expand that to the whole area of Judea and Samaria. But that was a total failure. It didn't bring any peace, any stability, and any prosperity, by the way, not to Israel, not to the Palestinians. And now the whole world is now troubled by the fact that we have this war in Gaza with the Palestinians. So what good came out of it? So now we want to take this brilliant success and expand it to the whole area of Judea and Samaria. So of course we're against that. Thank God, 2 weeks ago, we had a historic vote here in the Knesset with 68 members of the Knesset voted to reject the idea of the two-state solution, not now and not ever, not ever. Which that was a historic vote, represent the vast majority of Israelis that supporting these opinions. And what we are doing also, again, we're not making campaigns out of it, but yes, we are also changing the facts on the ground. I don't know if you're aware to the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of illegal homes built by the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria in the past 30 years since the Oslo Accords. And we have started to change the system here in Israel in order to take down these illegal houses. We are recognizing more and more Israeli villages in Judea and Samaria that they were all sent by the Israeli governments from left and right throughout the years, and we are now acknowledging them, giving them everything that they need in order to maintain themselves. So yes, we are also changing the reality on the ground in order to make sure that we will not see another terror country established at the heartland of our country, at Judea and Samaria, at the biblical heartland of the Jewish people, just a few kilometers from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Ben Gurion Airport. It's not going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. And we are interested in promoting ideas which will really will promote peace and prosperity and stability in Israel, in the region, and I think to the whole world.
Amazing. Well, I see we've got a lot of hands raised, so I'll ask one more question and then we'll turn it over to the audience. So we see there's a possibility that the Democrats may win another term in America, and even if they don't, Israel's still got to deal with the Democrat administration until January. So how can Israel stand up to the Democrats, which seem to be moving increasingly away from Israel?
First of all, I think we are seeing, I just saw yesterday that one of the polls in America showed that for the first time in history, the Jewish voters in America supporting Trump, supporting the Republican Party. This is something of unprecedented. It never happened. It never happened before. And I think it's something very refreshing. We are seeing that the Jewish voters in America realize that as much as maybe sentimentally they support the Democrats, they've seen that policy-wise, what happened in the last couple of years, and the fact that unfortunately that the Democratic Party has been pushed, has been taking away to a very extreme progressive approach. It didn't do good, not for the Jews in America, not for the level of anti-Semitism, and we all see what happened in college campuses in America in the last couple of months. I mean, really horrific things, which nobody even thought we would see in our lifetimes. I mean, we all believe that this is part of history. what we've seen in Berlin 80 years ago, we are seeing again happening in college campuses in America. I mean, who would thought, who would believe that this is happening? And it became true. It became a reality. And we saw how this administration didn't dealt with it, to be honest. And of course, in everything in regard to what is happening in Israel. And again, I think President Biden himself, I think that his in where he is, I think he's a true Zionist. I mean, he supports Israel in his heart. But policy-wise, we've seen horrible things that we didn't imagine. I mean, while we are fighting for our survival, for our lives, literally our lives, the Biden administration has started to withhold ammunition that we need. We need to, in order to protect ourselves from our enemies. Does that make any sense? We've seen them sanctioning people in Israel who did nothing wrong, and you know, people. Just again to remind everybody, Israel is a democracy. We have a very independent law enforcement system. I mean, if somebody did something wrong, he will be treated according to the law. I mean, what is going on here? What is going on here? So, yes, I really truly hope that we will succeed anyway to keep the bipartisan support for Israel. I mean, we are engaging with several members of Congress and Senate from both parties in order to maintain this support. But yeah, it becomes more and more challenging every month, every year with the Democratic Party. But also, I mean, also have no mistakes. I mean, we also have waiting for challenges from the Republican Party. It's also a challenge because some, you know, that today also in the Republican Party, there are more and more people saying, people who support isolation. How do you say this word?
Isolationism.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. People who are saying that America should not be part of what is happening in the world, should not support America's allies in the Middle East. And I think that will be, I mean, we're seeing these policies becoming more and more center. And this is something very concerning also in the Republican Party. I mean, look at the fact that America is withdrawing from Africa even, for example, and folding from the Middle East. That creates huge problems because then the whole alliance of Iran, together with China, North Korea, and Russia, they're getting stronger. There's no vacuum. If America is going back, then this evil alliance is getting stronger, and they're going to Africa and they're going to the Middle East. That creates a lot of problems. So yeah, I hope that America will stop its current policies and will change the course, because God forbid, if America will not be the police officer of the world, there will be other evil forces who will take over, and that I don't think that will be good news for anybody.
Thank you so much, Ohad. We'll go over to our president, Dr. David Adler, if you would like to take the stage.
Okay, thank you, Tennille, and thank you so much for joining us this evening, Ohad. Let me tell you, most of what you've said resonates very, very strongly with the sort of work that AJA does. But just briefly, as I always do, show you what's coming up next week and make sure that everyone at the end of the event, please go to the website, jewishassociation.org.au. Don't be passive, don't be a freeloader. Please help and support us, make a donation, make sure you've signed up to the email list, follow our social media, which has just got enormous. And to let you know what's coming up next week, as we're having a discussion from the Israeli Parliament tonight, next week we're having a discussion from the Australian Parliament with one of our good friends, Senator Holly Hughes, and we'll be just talking about a range of issues that arise out of our own environment, including the loss of bipartisanship in support of Israel, the rise of anti-Semitism, of course, and some of the issues that concern the upcoming election. I've been asked by Tennille to point out that I'm actually wearing two badges this evening. One is the AJA Australia-Israel Friendship Badge, and the other is the yellow ribbon badge, which we've just added to the AJA online shop. So if you haven't seen that for a while, have a look from the website at the AJA Israel Supporters Shop, and there's a small range of good things that you can consider.
And I'll post that link up to the shop in the chat. We're about to head into the Q&A section. I'd like to remind everybody, please get straight to your question, as we always have a lot of questions and never enough time. We'd like to start with Hugh Kitson, our good friend. Would you like to unmute, please?
Thanks very much, Tennille. Actually, I will be with you in Australia as from next week. We're moving down under from the UK, and things are bad here in the UK, as has been pointed out. But I just want to bring up an issue that's been in the chat. I think Ailey asked the question. I know that the Prime Minister, when he spoke in Congress, said there is no plan to resettle Gaza, but I mean, there's Judea and Samaria as well. And I know that within Israel, there is a strong, even if it's a minority, to actually exercise sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. And in view of the negative vote about a Palestinian state, which we all applaud, by the way, do you think a time will come when the Israeli government actually will exercise full sovereignty over Judea and Samaria?
It's a great question. I'll tell you two things about it. I think, one, we have goals for this war. The goals of the war has to be in a broad consensus, and there are three. A is to eradicate Hamas. B, to make sure we're bringing back all the hostages. And C is make sure that Hamas and Gaza will not be able anymore to pose threat to the life of the people in Israel. Those were the three goals of the war. So, and I think they are good war goals, and which everybody in Israel will agree to them. And I think we have to first achieve these three goals. I think, by the way, we should have the same goals apply towards Hezbollah. I mean, we cannot accept the fact that already for 10 months, Hezbollah has launched about 7,000 rockets to Israel. We have about 100,000 people on the northern border of Israel who are homeless in their own country. This is something we cannot accept. And we have to apply the same goals towards Hezbollah. We have to eradicate Hezbollah and to make sure that they will not be able to pose threat to Israeli lives any longer. So this is what I think, that's stage number one. And about applying sovereignty, yes, of course, my opinion and my party's support is for, yes, to promote this policy of applying Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. But this is something we will have to, if we will succeed convincing the public in Israel that that should be the policy, I hope it will happen. If we will not succeed convincing the people, maybe it will not happen. You know, but to be honest, I think eventually it will happen. Whether it will be in a good way or in a bad way, but it will happen, because I think realistically, I don't think there's any other choice. I mean, as much as maybe we would want, some people would want to avoid this policy, I think that it will not succeed. I think our enemies will force us at the end of the day to understand that the only solution to stop the violence, to really bring peace and prosperity and stability to this place, is only under Israeli sovereignty. I mean, look at what is already happening in Israel. I mean, we don't have, you know, that Ashkelon, which is now bombed by Hamas from Gaza. Hania, the leader of Hamas, came from Ashkelon. You don't see now in Ashkelon any violence. Why? Because Ashkelon is under Israeli sovereignty. Is there Arabs and Muslims living in Ashkelon and in other places in Israel? Of course. Do they have all the freedoms in the world? Yes, they do. And ask every Muslim or Arab in Israel, do you want, 20% of Israel population are minorities, Arabs and Muslims and other minorities. And ask each and one of them, do you prefer to live in Israel or you prefer to go and live in, I don't know, in Egypt or in Iraq or in Syria or in Iran? Nobody would want to change his life in Israel. So, and we don't see terror coming out from Ashkelon because it's under Israeli sovereignty. So I think it will have to be applied also to other places in Judea and Samaria. We will have to have a choice.
Thank you. Dr. Joseph Goldbaum, please unmute.
Good evening. Thanks for this discussion. Just putting American politics, internal politics aside, what do you think are the geopolitical implications if the US and Israel attack the head of the octopus first? And is the Turkish position a deterrent to a preemptive strike?
You're asking a very good question, which I'm not sure doing it on Zoom. I can tell you like very basic things. I will not be able to go into specifics in that regard. I think that, again, as I said before, if we really want to change the reality, and if we really want to save the world from this threat, again, as I answered to the previous question, at the end of the day, we don't really have a choice. We have to hit the octopus on its head. That's the only way to make all the other arms, all the other proxies of Iran dry out and stop doing what they are doing and stop destabilizing the region, stop destabilizing the world. We don't have really other choice. And yes, of course, Turkey it's a huge problem because and by the way, it's not just Erdogan. It's like there are many forces in Turkey today, unfortunately, which become very radicalized and supported by Iran, wants to destabilize the region. And yeah, I think, but it only makes it even more necessary, again, to take down the Iranian regime and to weaken this alliance. I'm not saying it will solve all the problems, but that will be a very good start beginning. And later on, we have to slowly but surely make sure that all the other arms, all the other proxies of Iran throughout the region, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Turkey, in all these places, will lose their strength.
Thank you. Terry, please unmute.
Hi, thank you very much for the talk. Strikes me that Israel has fought an awful lot of wars, and in almost all of them, they've eventually, as Douglas Murray put it, they're the only country that's not allowed to win. At the moment, we're facing a situation where certainly up until the American presidential election, I'm sure Iran sees this as a point in time where it can take advantage of the chaos in America and attack Israel, as we've seen through its proxies. We seem to be going closer and closer to war with Iran, but will Israel feel constrained by what has always happened before, which is that the US has stepped in and the UN has stepped in and sort of said, yeah, so much, but we're not going to let you go any further?
So if I didn't hear everything you say, you're asking if Israel will be restrained by the Americans?
Yeah, by the Americans, the UN, and all the other parties that in previous wars have ended up sort of saying, okay, you're just about to win. Beautiful, but stop.
Yeah, I think there's an understanding in Israel that we are in a very historic times, and that at the end of the day, we will have to do what needs to be done in order to protect ourselves. We prefer that it will be with the support of our allies, but even if it would be without the support of our allies, we would do what needs to be done. I think there's an understanding for that in Israel, and I think already now we've tried to prove exactly that. I mean, I think Netanyahu is trying to balance between, keeping our alliance with America, but even though they were strongly against us getting into Rafah, for example, taking over the Philadelphia corridor, which we understood that is essential in order to make Hamas go down on their knees. We've done that despite America's objection, and there are other things that we've done, or that other countries are saying that we have done in other places in the Middle East in the last couple of months that America didn't support, and we've done it anyway. So we are trying to balance these things, trying to keep this alliance, but also to do what needs to be done. And I think regarding to Iran, that for sure will be the approach. I mean, even if America would not support, we will do what needs to be done.
Mike, would you please unmute? Oh.
Baruch haba, Ohad.
Thank you so much, Mike.
I'd like just to say from previous experience, a lot of times most of the people are on the reserve service. I'm just trying to figure out what's the economy like in Israel at the moment. How do people live on a daily basis when they have all these people on reserves? What's the feeling around?
Oh, you're asking so many good questions. It's no doubt it's a huge challenge, but I think thank God we were lucky to enter this war with a very strong economy. Actually, the most the measures of the Israeli economics in the first quarter of 2024 were actually better than the same quarter in 2023. So yes, our economy is strong. It's even getting stronger. And of course, there are also challenges. And the fact that we have so many people in reserve makes it much more complicated. But Israelis, I mean, they have this ability to do 10 things on the same time. So people, they're in reserve, they're in the army, but on the other hand, they're still managing their own businesses. With the other hand, I mean, really, you cannot really logically explain that, but effectively, this is what is happening. You see that in all the measurements. You see that it proves itself that it's working. Of course, the government is trying to support very heavily the people who are serving. In order to because not everybody, of course, can afford to be out of work for so long. So we are trying to support them and their families financially as much as we can. And of course, it will be a challenge. And of course, we will have to cut down the next year budget. At the end of the day, we have to pay the costs of the war, no doubt about that. But I hope, but one thing is for sure. In order to maintain Israeli economics, we have to make sure that we are winning this war, because any other result will harm the Israeli economy in the most severe way. We have to win the war. That's the number one condition. That's the number one priority in order to be able to keep growing our economics.
Sorry, Anne, could you unmute? There we go.
Yep. So my question on the group chat is this towards you. After the war is over, how would Israel de-radicalize Hamas when Hamas have been indoctrinated for years to kill Jews? And I can even highlight how UNRWA and the UN has indoctrinated children in Palestine to kill Jews. So how would Israel de-radicalize years of indoctrination after this conflict is over in order to live in peace and harmony?
You're right. We have this problem. I mean, by the way, it's not just Hamas; it's also the Palestinian Authority. I don't know if you've read the official textbooks of the Ministry of Education in the Palestinian Authority, and so how they teach math. How they teach math? They're asking, if I killed 5 Jews and you killed 3 Jews, how many Jews did we kill altogether? This is how they teach math. This is how they teach poetry. This is how they teach everything in their official education system. So first of all, we have to understand, for all those people who are saying, you know, yes, now the next step should be a two-state solution, and let's sign some peace treaties with the Palestinian Authority, the moderate Palestinian Authority, which, by the way, again, they are the biggest supporters of terror in the world. I mean, they're by law, they're paying people. They have the pay for slave policy that by law they're paying people to kill Jews and their families. As many Jews as you kill, the bigger your pension would be. This is how the Palestinian Authority operates, the moderate Palestinian Authority. Yes, not Hamas, the Palestinian Authority. So yes, we have to understand, we have to realize that it will take at least a whole generation before we can even begin talking about peace treaties and all these things, all these, again, hallucinations, fooling ourselves as we've tried to do in the past 30 years. And yes, we will have to change their education system. We will not be able, if after, at the end of the war in Gaza, there is no way we will allow the Palestinian Authority to go back there, to take control and to keep doing what they've done in the past 30 years. There's no way we're going to allow it. Again, I know not everybody wants this, that Israel will take the responsibility for what is happening in Gaza. But like I said before, I don't think we would have other choice. I mean, who's going to protect us? Who's going to make sure that this de-radicalization is going to happen? Who's going to make sure that? Who? The Palestinian Authority, who didn't do that for 30 years? International forces, as some people suggesting. I mean, we've seen what happened with international soldiers in Lebanon. How long did that hold? How long? The second Hezbollah decided they don't want them there, they took off. It took them less than a second. So, like, we don't have a choice. We'll have to take the control. We'll have to make sure to start with this de-radicalization process, and it will take at least a generation. Am hanetzach lo mefached miderech haruka. We are not afraid from walking the long way, because the long way, at the end of the day, that's the shortcut.
And as we say to that, amen. Debbie, would you please unmute? Oh, Debbie, you've
Getting you need to unmute.
Unmute again. There we go.
Oh, okay, great. I've got 2 questions, but I'm only allowed one, so I'll just pick one. First of all, great to see you in this session, Ohad. Okay, now you've currently got these wars, going on, but at the same time as the wars in Israel, there's also a rise in anti-Semitism, in the outside world. Things are quite bad in France and in England. We don't know if they're going to turn around. What if there's a big interest in making aliyah from those countries with really bad anti-Semitism? Say it turns really bad. Would Israel have the housing and enough food and that to be able to accommodate them at this point in time?
Incredible question. First of all, we are waiting for everybody to come back. For 2,000 years, we are waiting for everybody to come back. Thank God, now it's possible. And yes, we are waiting for everybody. I think the Ministry of Aliyah Absorption is doing incredible work in the last couple of, I mean, especially since the last, in this last term, changing its policy in order to really be as flexible as possible and allowing as possible for people to come and make Aliyah. We are just now passing a bill that I wrote to allow more easy taxation for people who are making Aliyah and still working in other countries. We are now we now passed a bill also about allowing people who are or have specialty in, like, they're doctors or nurses or working in all kind of fields in other countries, to first of all to be allowed to work in Israel in their profession, and only later on deal with all their regulation in order to make the transfer, to transfer everything. So it will be, again, to be easier for people to make Aliyah. So we're taking many steps in order to make the Aliyah process easier, with less regulation, with less taxation and all these things. We're working on it very strongly. About building houses, well, yes, we will have to build many more houses. And also for that reason, this is just another reason why we do need Judea and Samaria. We need more land. We need more places to have all the millions of Jews who, please God, will come back home. We need these places in order to build their homes. So yes, we are working on it as well.
Well, we can let you know in Australia.
About the food, no problem. I mean, the food here is great. We'll take care of you.
We welcomed a brand new Aliyah Shaliach in Australia this week, so that's very promising. And we know that the Aliyah department has increased their marketing and is going to be hosting more events in Sydney and Melbourne. So it's certainly a positive step towards more Aliyah and more of us in our homeland. Alan, would you please unmute?
Yes, thanks, Tanil. Ohad, I have a left-wing cousin in Israel who was trying to tell me that 70% of Israelis just want the hostages to be brought home, even if it means releasing all the criminals from Israeli jails. I must say I found that hard to believe. Can you give me some idea of what the percentages are and how many people really are pushing for this sort of action versus just finishing the job and whatever it takes?
Yeah. First of all, for sure he's wrong, and I will tell you why. Most people, when they read a poll, they only take away the answer they want to get, so they're taking only that part. But if you read the whole poll that was taken on that subject, then you would see that it's true that the vast majority of the people in Israel wants to bring back the hostages. When they're asked, do you want to bring back the hostages now? Most people would say yes. But when you ask them, are you willing for that? Are you willing to have a ceasefire with Hamas, allowing Hamas to keep existing? The vast majority would say no. Are you willing to send free so and so an amount of murderers from the Israeli jail? The vast majority would say no. When you ask them if you're willing to have a ceasefire in the condition that the IDF will back off from the Philadelphia corridor, the vast majority are saying no. So yes, we want to bring back the hostages, but I don't think that the reality is that people, yes, they support the deal, but they don't know what the deal is. And when they go into the details and when they ask, are you willing to allow Hamas to exist? No, of course not. Are you willing to go out from Philadelphia? No, of course not. Are you willing to release these prisoners? Of course not. So So okay, so then you get your full answer of where the Israelis are, and I think that answers the question.
We'll head to our last question because we're almost at time. Jeff, would you please unmute?
Shalom. Could you please tell me what's the point of Israel's ethereal policy of over and above behavior, if you want to coin that phrase, with respect to the rules of war? It has cost thousands of Jewish lives. It has had absolutely no effect with respect to our enemies who play on that. And I just think that Israel should simply obey the basic rules of war as they are and save Jewish lives, which is actually the moral thing to do. So it's all wrong. And my question might be one of the more unusual ones. That still makes a lot of sense.
Again, I'm not sure I understand your question. If you can ask it again. No, you're muted.
I think he was asking what Israel goes so above and beyond the rules of war. Why?
Oh, okay.
This is the rules of engagement that the IDF has that are very onerous and restrictive.
I cannot agree with you more. I think you're right. I think this is why I'm saying I didn't open my meeting here with you asking what you think is the greatest challenge of the Jewish people in our generation. But usually in most talks I have, I ask people, what do you think is the main challenge of the Jewish people in our generation? And my answer to this question is identity. I think that the greatest challenge, more than fighting Iran and more than fighting anybody else, the challenge is realizing who we are, why we are here, and what is the meaning of being a Jewish state. And why I'm saying that is the greatest challenge, because what you're asking now is exactly the result of the confusion that we have in Israel about who we are, why we are here, what is our right for this to exist here, to this land, and what is the meaning of being a Jewish state. And because I think we are confused, that is the reality. We are confused. This is why we are seeing this kind of policy. This is why we are seeing Prime Minister Netanyahu, as much as I support him, and I do, going to Congress and saying that we don't have any desire to be in Gaza. I mean, in which other country in the world you would see the leader of the country, while at war with an enemy who wants to destroy it, saying, you know, we don't have any desire to be there. I mean, it doesn't happen anywhere in the world. It doesn't happen. So it only reflects the confusion that we are having. You know, just give you another example. What is the name of the war? How do we call this war? You know, the name of the war here in Israel is Charavot Barzel, iron swords, right? What is the meaning of this name? It doesn't have any meaning, zero meaning. How do the Arabs call the war? They call the war Al-Aqsa flood. Al-Aqsa is, of course, Jerusalem Temple Mount. And from the differences between the two names, you can understand that they have a clarity. They know exactly what they're fighting for. And the truth is, and we have to be honest with ourselves, the truth is that we are still confused. We have to realize who we are. We have to realize what we're fighting for. And only when we realize that, we will be able to win the wars we are fighting. So yes, it's also internal battle here within Israeli society to make it clear to people who we are, why we are here, what are we fighting for, and supporting our enemies without like no other country in the world is doing. I mean, no other country in the world is feeding their enemy while fighting it. No other country in the world is doing that. But this is another example. This is just another result of that confusion of why we are even fighting this war.
Thank you, Ohad. Unfortunately, we are out of time for this evening. I know there are many more questions in the chat, people with their hand raised.
I'm willing to allow, if that's okay, I'm willing to allow 2 more questions. If you're okay with that, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Could Cohen please unmute?
Thank you very much, Ohad, for your rather clear and detailed set of explanations. The question I'd like to ask is what topic you were on just before that, is that in Africa, there are potentially something like about 3.5 million people who would like to come and live in Israel, but there is some doubt about whether some entities in Israel would regard them as Jews. What is the situation with this? Because my own feeling is that any people like that who had a faith that one day, because they all came from the destruction of the temples, and that one day a big silver bird was going to pick them up and take them to Jerusalem. I can't imagine they'd be anything other than an asset to Israel.
I'm not aware of the number that you've mentioned, 3.5 million people. I'm not familiar with that. I think I don't think that those are the numbers. I mean, I know that there's an issue with some people, especially in Ethiopia and other places in Africa, but I know very different numbers than what you referred to. I think the vast majority of those who are considered Jews, and even their families who are not halachically Jewish, are being brought to Israel and were brought to Israel in the past few years and also in the last couple of years. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is something we have to improve. Definitely, we are not 100% on that, but I think there are several organizations working very hard in order to solve this problem. But anyway, again, I don't think the numbers, the real numbers, are even close to what you said. I think they're much smaller.
Thank you. Our last question will go to Dr. Joseph.
Yeah, thanks. I thought I'd throw a cheeky one in. Israel has recently been visited by Australian politicians, including the leader of the opposition. Are you able to comment on your viewpoint of the leaders that you have encountered?
All the members of parliament that I met from Australia, including, by the way, the speaker of your parliament, who was here. I think that was before the war. The speaker was before the war, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I've met several members of parliament from your country, from Australia, in the last couple of months. But they were all very supportive. I mean, maybe we didn't agree about everything, but I think the total feeling was that they're supporting Israel, and they're standing with us. They all deeply apologize for all kind of things which are happening in your country, policy-wise, and they felt that they have to apologize for some statements and some policies that happened in Australia. At least I didn't meet with anybody who strongly attacked Israel or came criticizing our policies in a strong way. I'm sure you have some members of parliament believing these ideas, but at least they didn't came to visit here. Didn't came to the Knesset, so I haven't met with them.
Thank you. Ohad, you are the chair of the Australia-Israel Friendship Group. We always like to end our Zooms with a call to action. What can we do? What can our supporters do to help the Australia-Israel Friendship Group, to support you? What more can we be doing?
So I think if you will also connect that to the last question of Dr. Joseph, I think voice your opinion. I mean, I think that is extremely important now more than ever. Go to your elected officials, tell them what you think, ask them, demand from them to support Israel, to support the good over the evil. I mean, I think, couple of 2 weeks ago, I had here a group of journalists and members of parliament from Holland. And I had a long conversation with them. And at the end of the conversation, I asked them a question because they asked me so many questions. I told them, I also have one question to ask you. I mean, aren't you concerned? Aren't you seeing what is happening in Europe, for example, seeing what happening in the UK and other countries? Aren't you concerned about the threat to Europe? And they told me that, yes, in their mind, they understand, but it's hard for them to really feel the threat. So most people, again, they seeing what is happening on television, but they don't really feel the threat. So I think our mission is, again, and it's hard because in Western way of thinking, yes, we don't want to believe in all these bad things, and we only care about our economics, and we want to make sure that we will have peace and quiet, and even if we have to pay the bull in order to keep him quiet, we're willing to do so. And I think we have to make our elected officials all over the world realize that we cannot keep fooling ourselves. We cannot keep closing our eyes and thinking that the problem will disappear. It's not going to disappear. It's not. So we have to wake up. We have to realize the threat, and we have to fight together. And I think our job, everybody here who cares about our democracies, is to make sure that all the people in power in all our countries will wake up and will do what needs to be done, and will support, or at least will support Israel doing what needs to be done. This is what I would ask you to do.
Thank you. And you've heard it firsthand from Ohad. This is what we need to do. And we ask all of you to take these words to heart and to start going to politicians in your communities and demand action. Ohad, we thank you for your friendship. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has been a pleasure to hear your insights and your passion. We support you. We support Israel. And we'd like to remind everybody that this was recorded. If any of your friends, family were not here this evening, please share the link with them. Please make sure that they watch this, that they learn from Ohad himself, and that they have a better understanding what is going on. Thank you very much for joining us. Would you like to say anything to close?
All good.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week. And Ohad, our friend, we will be in touch, and I'm sure we'll have you again very soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.